Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Virtual Forwards Work Club. My name is Neil and I'm a job broker for the Forwards Employment Service. If you missed last week's episode, feel free to go back and check it out. The links will be in the description. Otherwise, let's get started with today's session. Curriculum Vitae, also known as CV, the document that can tip the balance between being declined a job and being offered your dream job. If you're looking for employment, you probably either have one or at least heard of one. Effectively, you can think of a CV as a document that provides an overview of your education, employment and training. Instead of describing everything in great detail to an employer when you first meet them, you can hand over your CV and they can read about your experience in their own time. CVs can be somewhat of a double-edged sword though. On the one hand, you can craft a perfect CV that sells your skills and abilities to perfection. On the other hand, if your CV doesn't impress the employer, you won't get the chance to meet them face to face, which is where you might usually excel. So to avoid a CV being a double-edged sword, we're going to look at creating one today so you can wow any employer. Let's first of all go through a CV step by step. The first thing you're going to want to cover is your name, address and contact details. It's essential that you make sure this is clear to read with no typos. This first step is arguably the most important because if the information is wrong, the employer won't be able to contact you. If you have an email address, make sure it's professional. How about something like this for Joe Blogs? First initial, so J, surname, Blogs, and memorable number 22. And it doesn't matter which provider you use. It could be Gmail, Yahoo, whichever you prefer. Next step, onto a personal statement. This part of the CV can be summarised as your skills and experience that are relevant to the role. How about something like this? I am an approachable, enthusiastic and reliable individual who has an excellent work ethic. I have experience working in various settings and feel I would excel in a customer-facing role. I have really enjoyed previously working in a similar environment and would like to find a job that matches my skills and offers the opportunity for me to meet new people. I have previously been referred to as always remaining positive and can get along with people from all walks of life. You don't have to write too much, just enough to get your point across. Feel free to use this as a template for your CV. The next section of the CV depends very much on your own situation. A good rule of thumb is to put the most relevant experience that you have to the role in which you're applying at the most visible part of your CV. For example, if Joe Blogs is applying for a cafe assistant role and has experience working in a cafe, he'd want this information here, not all the way down here. The same sort of thing applies to education. If Joe wanted to apply to an IT role but only had experience in IT at college, he'd want to put this information here. We're going to roll with the first example. This is a good way of laying out your work experience. I would suggest having the job that you either have currently or had most recently at the top of the page, and the job that dates back the furthest, put it at the bottom. You'll notice that everything is in bullet form. This is to keep the information quick and easy to read. You don't want the employer bogged down with hundreds of lines of information. Remember, you're probably not the only person applying for this role. If your CV is particularly wordy, they might skip it altogether. Now on to education. High school, college, university. You don't need to go back any further than this. Focus on the best grades you have. Don't focus on F's and U's. If you failed a subject, it's not the end of the world, but you just don't need to broadcast it, especially if it's not relevant. You'll notice that this is also in bullet point form. You can of course add more information if you want, just remember what I said before about things being too wordy. Lastly, onto hobbies and interests. You have to be quite careful in this section. It's very easy to fall into the trap of telling an employer something that could harm your application. Be factual, be brief. Talk about any skill-based activities and what you like to do in your spare time, perhaps football or cooking. Don't tell employers what you don't like. It will just come across as if you're being negative. Finally, onto references. This part is kind of up to you. If you have references, you may as well add them now. If not, simply add references available upon request. And that's it. Your CV is complete. No, it's never that simple. You will need to tweak your CV from time to time, add a word here and there, remove a word here and there, but you have the basic structure. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Now to end the session, I want to give you an activity. Have a look at this example CV for Joe Bloggs. He has just handed his CV into a local coffee shop for a cafe assistant role. What I want you to do is try and find everything that is wrong with the CV. You can take as much time as you like to do this. What we'll do is we'll highlight the answers for you at the beginning of next week's session. Good luck, and we hope to see you next week.